All right, let's get going. So we've got a number of new PRs and closed PRs this week. There's a PR for changing how block device in BlueStore determines how to throttle. Specifically, the issue that came up was during erasure coding. And so Igor that he was going to, or he signed himself for a self-review on that one, so I'm going to let him take a look at it. But basically the fix is to use pending IOs instead of the size of the IO vec. So we'll see what Igor thinks. There is a PR from Adam to prevent huge write-ahead log sizes when RocksDB sharding is enabled. Lots of discussion around that and further discussion around how big we should let write-ahead logs grow, what size the overall size should be, how many buffers to use, what size of buffers, and potentially what kind of throttling behavior we should try to get RocksDB to employ to avoid write stalls when we actually hit the end of the write-ahead log. So the good news here is that Igor is saying that we don't seem to ever hit that case. In the field, they only ever see the write-ahead log using about 512 megabytes of space, which probably means that RocksDB is doing an effective job of throttling before we ever get to the full end of the write-ahead log. I have seen cases in the past where BlueStore has, or where an OSD has actually fully, completely stalled writes, but not very often. So it may be that that those cases now are extremely rare. Anyway, but this is all kind of the discussion that's going on around this particular PR. Next PR is one from Majian Peng about enabling RocksDB pipelined writes. So RocksDB started allowing this a couple of years ago, well after BlueStore was initially written. It's a little scary and complex, and it sounds like there was a fix for pipelined writes back in 5.15, RocksDB 5.15. We've now updated master to use 6.8.1, so theoretically we should have that fix, but if we ever wanted to backport this, we would need to probably do that as well. My guess is we probably would not backport this if we did end up applying it. Theoretically, it might be faster. I don't typically see the KV sync thread being necessarily the bottleneck, even in like 4K random writes anymore. We've improved it a lot, but this PR still may make sense. So we'll just need to look at it carefully. What's next? Use XX hash for garbage collection queue selection, I think, if I remember right. I don't really know exactly why that's better than what's existing, but Casey approved it, so I assume it's good. Next, I added this in, even though this is a little bit of an older PR. This is the BlueStore mempool split PR from Dipika. I added this because kind of indirectly, this is really good for performance to know what particular things are actually using memory, including the shared blobs and extents and other stuff, rather than just this big random pool of other BlueStore memory usage that we were looking at before. This is fantastic. I think this is really good. We'll be able to use this information for making better decisions about memory management in BlueStore. So I'm excited to see this get merged. A bunch of stuff closed this week. A couple of different things that were just kind of do not merge PRs or PRs that ended up not working out. A couple from Cheng X. I hope I didn't mangle that too badly. For AVX2 acceleration for encoding and decoding, there were a couple of PRs around this. It looks like two of which closed. One of them was actually marked as dangerous. I'm not sure exactly why, but that got closed. And then also some kind of performance verification PR for some of these other PRs. There is a PR from Adam that was closed without comment for monitoring of the O nodes. This is like a debugging PR, so not sure why that was closed, but maybe in favor of something else down the road. As I mentioned earlier, we did update RocksDB to 6.8.1. Beyond performance, potentially some performance improvements, there were a number of fixes noted in the notes regarding data corruption and segmentation faults. So I think in general, this is a really good decision just to update it because we want to benefit from those. Adam's PR merged. Objection triumphant. Yay! That is fantastic. I don't know if Adam's here. Nope, he's not. But that's been a long time coming, so I'm really excited to see that merged. So that's great. The initial C-star work from Sam, it appears to have merged, so that's also really good news. I think, Deepika, I think you were also maybe looking at performance testing with Alien using BlueStore. Are you also going to be looking at Sam's work as well?
I don't have that on my list right now, but I can surely sync up with Sam then.
Cool. Yeah, I was just curious. This is all really exciting, so I'm very, very curious to see what you find and what eventually what we'll see with C-Store rather than using an alienized BlueStore. So really, really neat stuff. Let's see. Let's see. So next on the list, Adam also has another PR objection sustained. I actually don't exactly remember what that is relative to his objection triumphant PR, but he closed it in favor of a new PR. So I assume that will be coming soon. Last thing that was closed here was Stalebot closed my RGW bucket list encoding buffer lists rather than directory entries. That's just basically an optimization in the CLS code for RGW inside the OSD, where previously we were decoding the directory entry and then doing filtering on it and re-encoding it before sending it off to RGW. This basically instead you decode, do your filtering, and then just send the original buffer list straight to RGW, which is a kind of a little bit of a protocol change. It is faster from the test that we ran, but I think there's some concern about changing things in that way. So just the question is, do we do it? And if we do it, what does it look like exactly? And then maybe further work would be, can we make it so that instead of decoding the entire directory entry, we're just decoding the things that we want to filter on. So potentially still work in that area. For now, I'm cool with it just going stale until a time when the RGW folks have more time to actually think about how they want to approach this. But we'll see. Still some gains to be had there, I think. Several things with no movement. More of this buffer list encode stuff, potentially with AVX2 acceleration or other forms of acceleration. Let's see. A couple in here that we should talk about, but I'll do that farther down, I guess. All right. So, discussion topics. Oh, sorry. Any other PRs I missed, guys? Does anyone have anything they want to talk about or bring up? All right. Moving on to discussion topics then. First thing I wanted to mention, Josh, you may have more knowledge of this than I do. I think since about a month ago, the performance meeting hasn't been showing up in this calendar anymore. Any idea why? I'm not built in this area. I don't know if you're trying to respond, Josh, but you're muted.
Mark, are you talking about Ceph calendars?
Sure, exactly. It previously in the Blue Jeans, or with the Blue Jeans app, I was in the performance meeting showing it, and now I'm not. And I don't know if that actually also translates into the Google Calendar or not.
Because I can see it in Google Calendar.
Okay.
But I would love to have it. I would love to have it back in the Blue Jeans calendar too, if you can so.
Ronan, are you seeing? Oh.
Sorry, what I said is that I agree. I don't see it either in the Blue Jeans.
Okay. I will talk to maybe Mike Perez. He might be the one that actually owns this, or possibly is some kind of Ceph account. So I'll try to see if I can figure out what's going on and see if I can get it back in.
Hey, Mark. I was just changing a diaper, but the calendar for Blue Jeans, I think, is managed by the owner of the Blue Jeans meeting. So if it's a scheduled meeting in Blue Jeans, then it'll show up there.
Okay, I think that was I at one point transferred that over to Patrick back like several years ago. So is Mike the one then that?
Yeah, Mike Caprez would be the one, I think, who would have access to the relevant account.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll talk to him and see if I can figure out. All right. So next thing on the list, Igor's not. We again hit an issue in master with the pinning nodes in the O-node cache, and I had a PR a while back that changed the behavior that we end up sitting and to iterate over the entire cache. And there's lots of pinned entries. We're seeing problems in the field in some cases when there are lots of pinned entries in the cache. So that PR is buggy, or that change that we made is buggy in that very seldomly or very rarely we can end up with some kind of issue involving the reference counting with multiple boost intrusive lists and moving objects between them. I don't remember exactly the details of what we were hitting and how we interpreted the behavior, but it was very complex and very hard to understand why we were seeing what we were seeing. Igor has a different way of handling this that I think avoids that problem entirely. His method is much, much better, but it also right now is not passing. So I think the route to fix this is we need EPR passing QA tests and then apply it to master and kind of regroup after and see what if we still hit this at all, or if it has totally eliminated the problem, which I think it probably will. So I'll try to talk to Igor about getting that passing test and get it merged. Next on the list, we've got a number of PRs that need regarding BlueStore threading and locking code that we review. Probably, I don't know if Kifu, you, me, or Igor might be people. Josh, you might just in general have insight into looking for this issues with these PRs as well. The locking code in BlueStore is kind of complex. It's kind of hard to figure out really what's not. In addition to the locking now, Majian Peng has a PR that we talked about here briefly, talking about how to enable RocksDB pipelined writes from a separate thread. All of this is kind of going to be tough to diagnose. I'm a little worried about approving them without having a really good understanding of the locking code myself. I think we're all kind of in the same boat there. So we should probably figure out a way to try to either approve these or not approve them, depending on how good we feel about merging them in.
Do
What
they
do you
all
think,
have
Josh?
some performance data along with them at this point, demonstrating a real benefit?
I think the one that's tweaking the right locking code does have some performance data that looked good. Looked hopeful in any way. I'm less convinced about the separate Roxy pipelined write PR, at least right now, because in a lot of cases I'm not seeing the KV sync thread actually being the bottleneck at this point. But it very quickly could become the bottleneck again, in which case this maybe does help. And there may be cases where it really does. If you've got like a CPU that's clocked really low, it's potential, this could actually still make a difference. So I guess that's kind of where we're at on it.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like we need to spend a little time looking deeper at that code then and figuring out the threading and locking model there, making sure it's safe.
Yeah, I mean, probably several of us need to really go in and at least feel more comfortable with how some of that works. Sage was the real expert, right? Maybe Igor was next in line. And then, maybe me and Kifu are sort of, well, you Kifu, for yourself how comfortable you are. I can say that I feel like I'm below Igor in terms of my comfort being authoritative on whether or not some of these changes are safe.
Probably Igor and Adam. I'm not quite comfortable looking at the Blue Store code, at least not now.
Sure. And I'm not super uncomfortable looking at Blue Store code. I just, every time I looked at the way Sage was kind of doing some of the locking in there, or had to do some of the locking in there, just as a result, or it's I'm not sure if I would like changing it right now or not myself, but anyway.
This early in the cycle.
Maybe
Yeah,
Josh, maybe you and I can.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest the same thing. Maybe we can sit down sometime and go through the code together. Maybe with Igor or Adam and try to figure some of this out.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I think we should. So anyone else is interested in as well, we can do it. Sage had a couple of walkthroughs of the code from several years ago. I don't know if those would be helpful now or not, or if we'd be better off just digging in and trying to understand it for ourselves, really, kind of in depth what the locking is doing. I don't know if his walkthroughs are still 100% accurate or relevant.
I think they're still quite relevant, but they didn't cover the locking aspect as much as the data structures, and the locking part might not be as well documented there. So
yeah,
best to calculate ourselves, I think.
Cool. All right. Next on the list, I've got the ISC20 is the International Supercomputing Conference for this year, and the IO 500 committee had issued a call for submissions for the next testing. And so last week we started in earnest on submitting some Ceph results for that effort, and we found in conjunction with the Deos team from Intel and other folks, found a number of issues with the new benchmarking code that they had that they were requiring folks to use this submission round. So as a result of that, both with Ceph and Deos and other things, they ended up deciding to delay the requirement for submission 1 month. So that round will no longer be associated with the ISC conference, but we will still be trying to submit some results for that, I think. One thing that came up as a result of that discussion is that the committee may not let us do our normal export pinning on a per directory basis, which is what we were doing for the MDTZ phase of the benchmark. We use ephemeral pinning instead, or do export directly in libcepfs backend code for IOR and MD test. I still have not gotten a real kind of good answer from the committee on why that's the case, why they feel that way. The initial answer was kind of that they want to make sure that directory creation was benchmarked along with the file creation in MD test, which if we pre-created the directories and then did our normal export pinning would not be the case. But it does not look like they actually use directory creation time as part of the eventual score or even that phase of result. That phase's results don't include directory creation as part of the score. So in any event, it's kind of all up in the air right now, I think, still, whether or not what we'll be able to do or not do. But we may need to fall back on ephemeral pinning, so we'll see. Let's see what else here. I'm going to continue working on the pre-splitting and pre-exporting code for the hard portion of that test. And in general, those things might be useful for users if they can, say, flag a specific directory that is going to have lots of objects and is going to be consistently hot. We can make some much better decisions in CephFS and the MBS if that's the case, and kind of avoid a lot of contention. So I'll continue to work on that over the next month here. Hope we can use for this round of testing. Any questions on any of that? All right, then the last thing here that I had is ongoing performance CI. I have not actually kept up this week on what the latest is. Josh, have you been kind of watching that effort? Is there anything new to report?
I'm not sure if there's much new this week. Sinead's not sure if she's had a chance to get further on testing out with the Smithies. Sweetheart, is there anything new from your end?
Peter, I think you're muted.
All right, well, maybe when Nihau's back next week, we can regroup on it and see where things are at.
Yeah. I think Sweetheart was going to take a further look at trying to get the results. It looks like it's unmuted now.
Yeah, sorry. Somehow the unmute didn't work. So I haven't had spent much time on this very recently because I've been busy with the new recovery test and testing all the associated drivers, and also plotting other stuff like the time series data and all that stuff. So I could really spend time on this. So hopefully, once I'm done with this, the PR relating to the new recovery test, I'll be able to spend more time on that.
Cool.
Hey Mark, this is Tushar. Change. I'm actually attending it. Just catching up. So Mark, for the performance CI, where do you plan to run the tests? I mean, is the plan to do just a nightly sort of dashboard of where we are with respect to classic OSD and C star and like how, or Crimson rather, sorry, and which cluster would it run on?
Sure. So right now we have 4 of the Inserta nodes dedicated. So we split the Inserta cluster and have half of them now available for running the performance tests. I think what we would do long term is also carve off some of the officinalis nodes so that we do tests on both and see if we are seeing variation between the two, just because they have shows different speeds of drives and different ratios of CPU that's available. So that I'm hoping will give us a little bit more coverage on whether or not we're seeing kind of consistent behavior with different PRs if they're performance related. Down the road, I'd like actually to get a couple of other architectures in there as well, probably ARM and some other things, just so that we can really have on and see on what platforms things are behaving in different ways. But I think for right now, it'll probably be the ones that you guys donated for us, or for the community rather. So that's going to be really helpful. Regarding Crimson and Classical, go ahead.
No, finish it up.
Regarding Crimson and Classical OSD, all the heavy lifting done by Kifu and Radek and those guys, they actually started out with Crimson tests using CBT and Jenkins. And the more recently, we've enabled testing the Classical OSD code with BlueStore. I think it was originally MemStore, and I think maybe now we have BlueStore. Kifu, is BlueStore available in Classical OSD?
It's not. The Classical OSD is not tested with BlueStore now. We switched over to BlueStore last week.
Oh, fantastic! Good deal.
That's PR, right?
Yeah, I've been pushing Kafu on that. So Kafu, thanks for doing that. Because I know, we actually had a thread with Kafu, Chinmay, and Sam to see what, how that's being tested. So, so Kafu, did you mean you switched to Crimson testing with BlueStore Alien, or is that what you meant?
Oh, no. We are testing Classical OSD using BlueStore, but when it comes to Crimson OSD, we're testing the MemStore.
Okay, it's still MemStore only, right? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And so with CStore, Mark, again, I do plan to get those memory DIMMs out to you, or David rather. I think those are ready to ship. I'll make sure that our lab manager ships those out now that he's back in the office.
Okay.
So the CStore, I did look at the first commit. So I'll have a chat with Kafu and Sam as well separately to see when we're ready to actually make use of the persistent memory DIMMs as well in that cluster. So, but yeah, this performance CI has been kind of a long pending thing that we've been talking about. So it's great to see it going here.
Yeah. I'm really hopeful that it will be useful going forward. At least starting out right. At least to make sure that we're not merging really blatantly horrible things into master, into the tree, and then maybe down the road we'll actually be able to do more fine-grained things with it. But even as a way to avoid having to do performance, regression bisection, it would be really nice.
Tusha, I just want to note to mention that our first step is to support the ZNS Flash, and our second step would be support the DIMM memory for indexing. That would be the next step. So, but the first step would take quite a long time, right? Because we are building the system from ground up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm actually on board on that one, Kafu. I was just mentioning that if we wanted to, so let me also mention that I've been working with Igor on another small project where we again I basically set up a couple of public nodes where Igor and I have been experimenting with Optane DIMMs to do some early work to see, where, how to best use it, right? It's a key value store, and can we do some performance analysis for various options? So we've been looking at PMEM, KV, and some other options, where transactions are available and so on. But then we do want to eventually, basically get that as input to you and Sam, so that any decisions that we want to make with respect to this, the metadata tier for Crimson or C store rather in particular can be made based on that data that we have. So Kafu, I mean, if you I'll connect the threads. I mean, so far it was just Igor and me brainstorming, what we can do. I'll connect the threads and make sure you and Sam are pulled into that.
Tushar, if you don't mind, could you CC me on that as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would. Yeah.
Cool. Out of curiosity, have you guys thought at all about how you would sync metadata in that case? Would you be looking at like a 3-phase commit type thing, or how would that look compared to like how BlueStore does it right now?
Actually, that's probably a more broader question, with Sam and Kafu included, because so right now, all we said was, okay, hypothetically, if we replace BlueStore in classic OST with another key value store without changing the commit path, what would that look like, right? How does that do with PMEM? And so we zoomed in on that KV piece as to what data structures works best with let's say opt-in sort of media and PMEM in particular. So that's the question we were trying to answer. And then the goal was, given Igor's expertise on BlueStore, figure out the test with the current data path, commit path, and then restructure it. So that restructuring part, probably I'll see if Igor and I both can bring back an update in a couple of weeks or so on that one.
That'd be great. We've had a lot of discussions internally about how we could use something like Optane DIMS for pglog inside the classical BlueStore path as well. And that exact topic also comes up as, how do you do synchrony? What does that look like, and where does it happen exactly?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I'll see where Igor, because Igor and I both have been kind of doing this maybe a part of a day a week or something. So I'll see if Igor and I mean, we can spend a little bit more time next couple of weeks, and we can discuss here broadly.
Cool. I'd be very excited to see what you guys come up with and what direction you'd recommend.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I'm just going to write down some of this.
Yeah, so I just have one more question, Kafu. So when you said NVMe, right? So one question that keeps coming up is the NVMe 1.3 and 1.4 feature set, right? So right now, I know we have talked through various threads on this, but Kafu, just for the sake of this, kind of for the record here, can you summarize, if zone namespace, what are the assumptions we are making right now for Crimson C Store from the NVMe feature set perspective, or the initial goal will be to only assume NVMe 1.1 or 1.2, or also assume like zone namespaces and NVM set sort of features.
It's been a while since I look into the NVMe spec. Probably I would continue the discussion in the next perform meeting.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. So the reason I'm asking that question is because we've had this long time thread with with Sage and Sam and Mark and you, and we've been talking about how to basically locating hosting more than one OST per NVMe, right? The partitioning aspect, and how do we leverage that natively with NVM sets or zone namespaces, etc. Right? the virtual versus logical, logical versus physical constructs, etc. Right? So yeah, so from that point of view, yeah. So Kofu, if you don't mind posting the latest C-store design, a link to the latest C-store design draft, I'll also take a look at that today. For some reason, I wasn't able to find that link earlier this morning, so.
Okay. The C-store design is now. We have two designs. One is the Ono design. Another is more like LBA tree design. But I can share you a link later on.
Okay,
and
that's
see
fine.
if you are interested. But please bear in mind, it's very detailed design, and it's not quite close to the hardware. What the assumption is that we can only append the assumption is based on the ZNS, not some NVMe spec.
Assumption is ZNS. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So because that is actually going to be an NVMe spec and a particular an implementation starting in a certain time frame, right? So it'll be good for me also to take a look at it. Yeah, the Crimson meetings, the weekly meetings, I usually miss them because they're like midnight my time. So if you
we have two Crimson meeting now. One is at Tuesday, 10:45 p.m. Another is it's in GMT +8, but we have two meetings. One of them is more appropriate for you guys in the West Coast. I will send you invitations to see if you can fit in the slot.
Yeah, I have the Tuesday night slot from that Mike, I think Mike, and then also Lars updated, I think. Yeah, I have that one. So yeah. If you could send that a link to that draft, the C-store draft, and then also the new invite, that'd be great. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Anything else, guys? Oh, I see a note in the second meeting in Ceph calendar as well for Crimson. Oh, okay. All right. Anything else, guys, for this week? Well, then have a great week, everyone, and we'll definitely continue especially the Crimson and PMEM conversation, as that's especially interesting, at least for me. So have a wonderful week, and see you later, guys.
Thanks. See ya.
Thank you.
You too. See you tomorrow.
Thanks.